First, we'll start with the concept of God. So, all over the world, we call it pre-Christian ancient traditions, because after the Christianity came, the world was divided into two parts, believers and non-believers. But before Christianity was introduced in the world, the whole world was believers. The concept of God did not have the gender bias. So, in all these ancient traditions around the world, you will find them goddesses and gods both. The concept of God in the Abrahamic religions was gender biased, and till the Pope declared that women have soul. Before that, women did not have soul.
Just 100 years before.
Yeah. There was a human relationship between the people and the God. So there was no mediator in between. Like you have, if you go to church, there is a priest, and priest is the one who communicates. In all these traditions, there was a human relationship with God. When there were some deities or gods or some sacred places, they will never go empty-handed. They will always carry something and offer it to the god, because they had a human relationship. And this human relationship is well expressed, like in Zulu traditions of Africa. They say that every creation of God, irrespective of whether human or non-human, have ithongo. And then plants, animals, and they all undergoing several births and rebirths. After doing a lot of good work, the ithongo gets assimilated into idlozi, as if the raindrop water gets assimilated into ocean. And this is the relationship of Atman and the Paramatman. So Atman is a part of ocean, is a raindrop, and raindrop also has same constitution. So Atman and Paramatman are not different.
Namaskar, this is Dr. Prashant Arve, Ramjas College, Delhi University. Today with us, an eminent professor from South Florida University, Professor Yashwant Pathak, a man with 400 research papers and more than 100 books. And he is a founding member of ICCS. ICCS is International Center for Cultural Studies. I welcome you, sir, in this episode. In the beginning of this interview, I would like to ask, you began your career from Nagpur. And Nagpur to Florida, this was your travel. Being a founding member of ICCS, International Center for Cultural Studies, what were the thoughts in your mind when you started International Center for, or as a founding member of International Center for Cultural Studies? What were the notions going on in your mind?
It is very interesting that there was a famous archaeologist and the person who has traveled around the world. His name was Vishri Vakankar. And Sri Vakankarji had visited many Native American villages and reservations, and he had expressed his experiences with those people. And subsequently, there was another great personality. His name was Ram Swarupji, who was based in Delhi. So he had written several books, and some of his books were trying to show the similarities within the ancient traditions of the world. And subsequently, it so happened that I was in charge for the work outside Bharat, and I visited Africa. My habit was to visit libraries and bookstores. So I came across a book written by John Beatty, and it was talking about African religions and traditions. And it was so fascinating that I completed that book in one day. And I was thinking that I am reading something written by some Hindu philosopher, or that type of scenario was there. And some of the thoughts and some of the statements what he made, he was saying that Africans are notoriously religious people. They carry the God with them to the schools, to the farms, everywhere they carry the God with them. And then there were many proverbs which were referred by John Beatty, saying that even the blade of grass doesn't move its head without the permission of God. And then you don't have to show the God to the child. God has to be realized. And these type of proverbs and lot of similarities which he expressed. So it was a coincidence, but I was from Nagpur, so I was talking to professors in Nagpur, and they didn't believe me.
Okay.
So in due course of time, they said that let us listen to you. So we had a 3-day seminar, and every day I talked about Afro-Hindu cultural similarities in Vidarbha Itihas Sanshodhan Mandal.
Oh.
And then we just gathered those professors who came, out of which 15-20 people said this is a very interesting thing, we should meet. So in due course of time, we established a center for Afro-Hindu studies.
Okay.
And then our first conference was organized in Vasantrao Deshpande Hall with 800 people. They were there.
Oh, great.
And in those days, Mananiya Sudarshanji was Sasarkareva. So he came and he gave a beautiful talk on these African traditions and other things. And then he was the one who really inspired. And believe it or not, I still remember that day very distinctly. I was taking my flight from Delhi, and coincidentally, Manyavar Sudarshanji was in Zendewala Karyalaya. And he said, Yashwant, what's your plan? I said, so let's go. And then he got into car and took me to Ram Saruji's home. And we had almost 3 to 4 hours of discussion on various aspects. And subsequently, we had several conferences under Center for Afro-Hindu Studies. In due course of time, my kshetra expanded. So I traveled to America and met a lot of Native Americans, and gradually we converted it into International Center for Cultural Studies. And International Cultural Studies, ICCS, was established as a non-profit organization with 501c3, registered non-profit organization. And I had opportunity to travel around the world. I have traveled more than 100 countries. And whenever I will go around, I will look for people who are belonging to the traditional, ancient traditions, we call it. And they were also known for tribals or indigenous traditions. So if you look at Africa, there are 1,000 different traditions. And each tradition has distinct way of life, distinct costumes, distinct thought processes and philosophies.
Okay.
And same thing happened in America with 500 nations. So I kept on reading lots of books. It was very interesting to see. So we started identifying the similarities within all these traditions. And there are very interesting similarities are there. So we started ICCS very humble way. And that's why I must mention that our first president of Center for Afro-Hindu Studies was Principal Arvind Joshi. He was principal of a college in Mekar. And then when we started ICCS, Dr. Buckley, who used to be head of the Department of Philosophy, was another very great person who really gave a lot of thought processes and thinking from his philosophical point of view and brought ICCS in a structured way philosophically.
Okay. This is a very interesting story, sir. Having traveled to so many countries and closely associated with the Indic diaspora, as you mentioned about the ICCS, the founding of ICCS, I would like to ask, sir, what are the commonalities as far as the culture is concerned do you find in India and across the globe?
It is very interesting. First, we'll start with the concept of God. So, all over the world, pre-Christian ancient traditions, we call it pre-Christian ancient traditions, because after the Christianity came, the world was divided into two parts, believers and non-believers. But before Christianity was introduced in the world, the whole world was believers. And very interestingly, the concept of God did not have the gender bias. So in all these ancient traditions around the world, you will find them goddesses and gods both. And everywhere the depiction of goddesses in some sort of a mother figure with a baby, breastfeeding mother, or there are many different types of divinities attributed to female deities. And same thing was happening in for gods also. And that's why the concept of God in the Abrahamic religions was gender biased. And till the Pope declared that women have soul, before that women did not have soul.
Just 100 years before.
Yeah. So obviously there was a distinction between the Abrahamic religions and the ancient traditions. That's one thing. Second thing was there was a human relationship between the people and the God. So there was no mediator in between. Like you have, if you go to church, there is a priest, and priest is the one who communicates. In all these traditions, there was the human relationship with God. And the simple example was that when there were some deities or gods or some sacred places, they will never go empty handed. They will always carry something and offer it to the God because they had a human relationship. And that human relationship is expressed in many different ways in their philosophies as well as in their proverbs. And this human relationship is well expressed, like in Zulu traditions of Africa. They say that every creation of God, irrespective of whether human or non-human, have ithongo. And then plants, animals, and they all undergoing several births and rebirths.
You mentioned about Ithongo.
Yeah, undergoing several births and rebirths. After doing a lot of good work, the ithongo gets assimilated into idlozi, as if the raindrop water gets assimilated into ocean. And this is the relationship of Atman and the Paramatman. So Atman is a part of ocean, is a raindrop. And raindrop also has same constitution. So Atman and Paramatman are not different. They are same. Only thing is manifestation is different. And that's how the relationship with God is expressed. Then there is a family, strong family concepts are there in all the ancient tradition. There is respect for the elders, respect for the family ties, and sacrificing for family is very similar to Hindu philosophy. And that's how you keep on going. There are birth and rebirth, relationship with nature, their creation, like Native Americans will call the plants not only plant but plant people, animal people, reptile people, because they also carried the same Atman as the human being were carried. So in our case, we say Aham Brahmasmi Tvam Tatmamsi Sarvam Khalvidam Brahmam. The same philosophy is expressed in different words in the ancient traditions. As well as there is the karma theory, which we say karmanyavadhikaraste ma phaleshu kanachana, or do the good karma so that you will carry those with you. So this karma theory is also part of their lifestyle, way of life. And this is where the things were going on, and taking care of each other, sharing with each other. And like in Ubuntu, they say, I am here because of you. The reason is that if you are not here, I am not going to exist. So automatically we owe something to each other, also to our relationship with Paramatman. So we, after expressing this and interacting with people, we realize that we can easily accommodate them as the dharmic traditions. And there are many traditions around the world. Like I was in Lithuania, and Lithuania, I met a very senior elder of the Lithuanian Romua traditions. So they have 24 volumes of their dictionary. So he was picking up the paper,
Pages.
flipping the pages and then saying, look, this is out of Sanskrit, this is out of Sanskrit, this is out of Sanskrit. Why don't you declare us as a Hindu nation? We are like
Lithuanians,
we are connected with it. If you go to Poland, you will find so many people who will talk to you saying that my name is this is a Vedic origin name.
Okay.
Like that it is there. We had a friend who used to come to our ICCS conference. His name was Piotr Winch. He was a professor. And Piotr Winch used to say that genetically also it is proven that we have a relationship all the way up to the Eastern Europe. So he said, why there is need of borders? And another very interesting thing which is there is all these traditions consider themselves to be children of the Mother Earth. Without blinking our eyes, our forefathers said, Mata Bhumi Putra Hum Prithivya. Exactly the same thing is expressed in different terminologies. In languages are different. The backgrounds are different. So obviously their words are different, but the meaning Shruti is same. So I always say that Shruti is same, Smruti change. So what they eat may not be like us, but what they think is like us. And that's why there is a similarity in all these traditions around the world.
Sir, are you connecting Ithungo with the Vyashti, Samashti and Parmeshti concept of India?
Yeah, it is because, Ubuntu, I am here because of you, is nothing but I and we are there. And this is further connected to the Paramatman. So there is and the nature is, they are most nature loving people. Even today there are several traditions in the world. They don't use the plow. How you will cut open your mother earth. That is their philosophy. So the relationship is there. If you go to Native Americans, they say that before you pluck one plant, put the seeds of 10 plants. Because they say that you don't inherit the earth from your ancestors, but you borrow it from your next generation. And this is where the Vyashti, Sushti, Samashti and Parmeshti are connected with each other. And they express it. There are a lot of expressions and it is very beautifully expressed in different terminology.
I heard you chanting in a Mumbai conference. That is two words I heard. That is one you expressed now, that is Ubuntu. And second was Mita Koe Oasin. So what is that Mita Koe Oasin? Can you explain it?
Mita Koe Oasin is a Sioux. There is a tribe which is Sioux in South Dakota. And the meaning of that is we are all relatives. We are all in relation because we are children of the Mother Earth. That is what Mita Koe. And interestingly, they use Mita Koe Oasin and they say Aho. Aho is a Marathi word. I don't think they express it as a Marathi word. But it is Aho means we are all and we accept it. And this is where, if you look at their language, almost every language will have something which expresses same thing. We are all brothers, we are all same family. Or in our case, we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, whole earth is one small family. So similar type of expressions are there in even Maoris, in Australian Aboriginals, in pagans, everywhere those expressions are there.
Do you see the freeness or the concept of dharma? We don't call it religion. The concept of dharma before the Semitism or Semitic religion or Abrahamic religion. And after Abrahamic religion, do you see the compartmentalization of dharma and religion, language or gender?
Now, most of the ancient traditions, whether from New Zealand, Fiji to South America, all of them in a way are way of life. Because there is nothing that one book, one place of worship, one way of worship, and one day of worship. That type of defined organized religions, these were not defined organized religions. And that is why they are more way of life. And that's why the elders in these traditions played a major role in transferring this knowledge, this wisdom from one generation to other generations. So the elders of the society or ancient traditions, it was not related with the age. There is a very nice saying. One of the Native Americans was interacting with a white person, and white person said that what is this elders in your tradition? So he said that in your way of life, you are old, older and then useless. In our way of life, we become elders and we carry the wisdom with us and transfer that wisdom to the next generation. So we are not useless. We are very useful to the society. And that elders concept is a very powerful concept. They really decide a lot of things within the society. They really transfer the whole wisdom. So even today, you go in the villages of Native Americans, there are people. I will give you a very good example. I was in Amazonian jungle, which is in Suriname, and there is a village called Bigi Poika. Now you'll think that you are in Indian village.
Oh.
Because in Bigi Poika, I was staying there with them for a while. So they have different doors. So it is interesting then the 3 days of their menstrual cycle of women, they don't use the front door. They stay in there is the other door which they will go in. They will not cook for those 3 days. The men will cook. They will not touch the rivers or waters for 3 days, and then normal. So such type of things were there existing, and I asked one of the question that I always used, whenever I will interact with them, I used to ask them a question that, do you know any person who has seen the God or connected with the God? So in Bigi Poika, I also asked the same question, and he said, yeah, we have some people. So I thought, how it happens? So he said that some of our elders who spiritually become very high, uplifted, so they go in the jungle, Amazonian jungle, and then they will practice celibacy, they will not eat, they have fruits and everything, very sattvic lifestyle they adopt. And for 1 year, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then a time comes when that riverbed doesn't have any fishes, many fishes, but the fishes will come, they communicate with fishes as if they are communicating with the God. And it is a very interesting scenario that there are people, even in African traditions, there are people who say that we have spiritual connection with the God. In our ICCS conference in Mumbai, one lady came. She was the president of Yoruba Enlightenment and Spirituality Center. So she was one of the keynote speakers for us. So she sat on the dais. Till she got on the dais, she didn't know what she's going to talk. And then she sat there, she prayed the God, and then she gave a beautiful, these connections of the world, how the world is interconnected with each other. Very beautifully she said that. As soon as she came down, I said, Mother Taylor, why don't you write what you said? She said, what I said, I don't know. It was not me who was talking. Now this is where the connections are there. We had a very interesting story. It is very interesting because we used to have a conference in these Yoruba people. So in India, people go in trance in temples. Like in Marathi they say Gagri Funkne. So there is a transcendental experience. So this African lady was having that type of experience when she was praying, and all these traditions pray around trees. All these traditions have a place of drums in their lifestyle. Drums are so important because they think that when you start playing with the drums, you start calling the spirits of the God. That's why the sound is very important, drum sound. And this lady was in trance, and one of our Indian lady, she went and she asked some personal question, and she immediately said, you pack up and go back to your country. And this lady thought about 1 month, and then it was so interesting that that lady has now settled very nice. She is a software engineer. There were other problems, but I don't want to discuss those. But when that lady, African lady, I met her afterward, and I said, hey, Dolores, you changed the life of one person in that conference. She said, I don't know what I did.
Oh.
So when she was in trance, she didn't even know what is going on. And you will find that in India, there are so many people who also experience this type of transcendental experiences in life. So obviously there is a connection, and when they go into that transcendental experiences, they visualize and they express the interconnectedness within the creation of God. And that is, many books also are written in that area showing how we are interconnected. And that's how that Mitakoe Vasin comes, Ubuntu comes. These are.
While you are talking about the traditions, Suriname and Amazon jungle, we can correlate that all traditions with our people also. Those are living in jungle, we don't call, actually calling them tribe is a derogatory word, we feel. But we can call them our ancient traditions. Okay. So there are so many similarities. But while working as a patron of ICCS across the globe, while you are working, what challenges you face initially establishing this organization or working for this organization?
First thing is that all these ancient traditions, all these traditions, indigenous traditions, whatever you want to call them, they suffered a lot from the invaders.
Okay.
And there are very beautiful historical evidences of their fighting back. But the colonizers changed the narratives of the history. So we never understand what is like. For example, Ethiopian king defeated French army 17 times. But we are never taught about this.
Stories get adulterated.
Yeah, history has been manipulated, not even adulterated, but manipulated to show that the Western powers were stronger than anything. Actually, they say that when the Europeans went to Asante Kingdom in Ghana, it was far more developed than Europe. So they destroyed that, and then they started saying that our
These
black
are
burden.
backward people. Huh.
So they were suffering from all these things. Even today, in Native American communities, the children are not allowed to go outside alone, because if the white police catches them, they put them in the trunk, not in the back seat. For other people, they will put them in the back seat.
Oh.
But Native
Even
American,
today, in
even today,
2025.
it happens that.
Oh.
So they all suffer from these type of atrocities. That's why they do not really trust anybody. So one thing what we have done as part of the ICCS activities is that we started building up the trust with them. One of the way building up the trust was to respecting their traditions, to recognizing that they are one of the best thought processes which are very useful for humanity. And as we frequently work with them, gradually we build the trust with them. And that this trust building also depends upon how arrogant you are working with them or how polite you are working with them. If you are very polite, in Marathi we say "Lahanpana dega deva," so always you politely talk to them, they will be yours. And then the moment you start, recently I was in Colombia, so I visited a Native American village and I stayed in the air conditioned hut because it was made up of bamboo and there were gaps in between. So in the night and day, every time the temperature is same, inside or outside. That's why I said air conditioned. And they never use beds and all those things. There is a hammock, so we stayed in the hammocks. And we were asking them. So they said that in that village, even today, there are no mobile phones, no TV, no electricity, nothing else, no modern gadgets are there. So I casually asked them that, brother, how do you, don't you go to Bogota to see all these things? So they say that when we go to Bogota and see the urbanized society, we are confirmed that our lifestyle is better than theirs. Because those people have so many problems in their personal life, and we are so happy because sun sets, we sleep, sun rises, we get up, and we don't worry about power shortage or anything. Our life is intertwined with the nature, and this is where this so building up the trust, building up a relationship with them, and exactly when you want to work for ICCS, suppose tomorrow, you need to make sure that you put both of you on the same level of thinking. You cannot say, I am here and you are here. Then it will never work. So we need to be very cautious working with them because we don't know what type of philosophy they have. And when you start talking to them, they have but expressions are different and it is bound to be different. Pinde pinde matir birna kunde kunde navampaya. Same thing is applicable. So working with them is to make sure that you are, very polite. You consider yourself to be learner, not as an aggressor, because they have seen a lot of aggressors. There is a nice story I want to share with you if you have 1 minute. I was in Suriname where we had a seminar. There was a Native American, African. I was also talking on behalf of ICCS. And it so happened that I gave the similarities of African traditions. I talk very great about African traditions. All beautiful things are there. So one white guy asked me a question that, you talked about great thing about African, but today if you see the Africans, why you didn't touch that aspect also? So I was jokingly told him that I left that aspect to the white people. So you write whatever bad you think. I am going to write only Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu, all good things. So one big, hefty body African came on dais and gave me a hug. I was scared like Shivaji, Afzal Khan Shivaji type of picture came in my image. And then he said that first time in my life, somebody who is not African was talking about the greatness of African. This is what we want to achieve. ICCS has to come up this way so that everybody will think that, oh, they are my brothers. That's where it is a realization of Mitakoy OSM. It is a realization of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It is a realization of Tvam Tattvamasi. And this is what ICCS has to do it in the future.
Obviously, James Mill wrote in his book about the Indians. The Indians are wretched, mendacious, uncivilized, uncultured, and barbaric. Obviously, they were having their perspective. When going as a ICCS, working as a ICCS, definitely this perception never can be India's perception. ICCS perception, it never can be. And that's why you succeed in building bridges between the ancient traditions and other part of the world. That is a successful story. One more thing I would like to ask that nowadays you are talking about, that is a shifting the lenses. What is your idea while we are talking in academia, the shifting the lenses particularly? I know there so many voices are there in the world in ancient traditions. These voices need to get consolidated, need to get platform, and these voices should be heard. Those they are in micro communities. So what is your thought in promoting the concept of shifting the lens?
Shifting the lenses is a book. It is written by a professor from Australia.
Okay.
She herself is an Australian Aboriginal. And when she did her PhD, she found out that it was the references which she started collecting for her first PhD, they were all manipulated.
Okay.
They were all telling all the lies. And then she submitted her thesis, got her PhD. But then she said, I need to work on creating a methodology to understand ourselves in a better way. And that's where she said that unless you change the lens, you are looking at yourself from a Western perspective. And our education is totally Western. So even though we think, we are trying to, we study, but 90% of what you study in the school and colleges has nothing to do with your rest of the life. And this is where like in America, we say that the whole American education system was created for the favor of industrialists, for catering the industrial revolution. So they were creating skilled workers from the industries, the whole education system. So she came up with all the concepts. Shifting the lenses is nothing but to create your own lens to look at yourself. And that is where the world has to learn this thing. And it is happening all over the world. If you look at the recent publications, we have some of these books in ICCS library. In the recent publication, there is a very beautiful book called Beautiful Africa. And there they are very clearly mentioning that the African economic development will only happen when we base our economic model on Ubuntu.
Oh.
And now there are several books which are coming up with the African Ubuntu philosophy. And that is where the change in direction happening. So it is the lenses what we are seeing have to be changed. And how it affects is like in America, most of the PhDs who do, if they write really honest opinions about Hinduism, their PhD will never be approved.
It is rejected. So
if you write in tune with Witzel's or Griffiths, then the PhD thesis is approved. So obviously this has to be changed. So I have a very good friend, Professor Tilak. He wrote a nice some 1200 pages book. We published it under ICCS. And he was saying how this Western person was changing the whole thought process of Hinduism, creating as if they are, wrong things.
in connection to this question, Nowadays we are talking a lot about artificial intelligence. Whatever you prompt, give it to Perplexity or whatever the platforms are available. That platform will give you whatever is internationally online available data. In that sense, for cultural studies, as an ICCS, do you find any threat in future? We need to work on this angle.
There is a beautiful article recently published, just 2 weeks back. It is written by a person whose father suffered from cancer.
Okay.
So his sister was a physician. He himself was AI person. So they tried to convince their father that you should take cancer medicine, chemotherapy, radiation, all the things, Western thought process. And they were studying every day on the AI, finding out what is the solution for his cancer, and it was all coming from the same direction. The father was saying that I go to my temple in rural area and I take some medicine. If 6 months, and then he tried to postpone that cancer treatment from the Western medicine. In due course of time, in 6 months, that medicine really cured his cancer. Now, this is what the AI expert is saying. And then he said that today 45% of the knowledge or information is online. Rest 65% is not online. And all the machine learning which will happen, you are going to input all these things. So if you talk about Vedas now, the AI will pick up the Vedas interpretation of Griffith, which is distorted, or Witzel, distorted. So now it is really a challenge for the ancient tradition, including India also, Hinduism, that unless we come up with a authentic literature, this AI will kill us, or AI will distort all of things. And next generation, we already are seeing that people don't read anymore. They just Google and find out anything. So next generation will never believe us that there was Dhaneshwar who could ask for Poseidon for the whole world. That is not there. And this is where the challenge is coming up. So all over the world, there is an effort of African, Native American, Maoris are very successful in this. So they are all putting lot of information on the online, so that if it is captured by the machine learning, they will have an authentic, valid viewpoint for themselves.
Okay.
And that's where these efforts have to be done. And a good example is, you must have heard the name of Professor Mashelkar, who was one of the great scientists of Raghunath Mashelkar. So when there was an application for Basmati rice patent, and then there were applications for neem and haldi. So that time Raghunath Mashelkar realized that, my God, this is going to kill us. Because then you will not make any turmeric cream here, because you are violating the patent. And that's why majority of the Sanskrit literature was put online, so that now the American IP, Intellectual Property Office, does not give you patent. Otherwise, people were taking patent for Mysore agarbatti and sandalwood agarbatti and all sorts of. There were patent applications for that. And if they would have given that, then they are, Bai to Kanpi, mighty is always right, and that where we would have suffered. So these type of activities need to be adopted by all the ancient traditions, so that they will protect themselves and they will have their own version of their own authenticity about their traditions and culture.
ICCS efforts are there, or ICCS working on this angle?
ICCS definitely is working on this angle. So what we are doing is we try to organize conferences and bring the people together, put up books. We have almost published 30 books with different connections, collaborations and all those things. And some of the books are now being referred in the online literature. So that is one thing. Second thing is we have established an organization called REWATCH, Research Institute for World Ancient Traditions and Cultures.
It is in Arunachal Pradesh.
And that is recently, last month only, we completed the whole documentation of Tansa, which is one of the tribes in Arunachal Pradesh, their language, their dictionaries, and we are publishing books how to talk these traditional languages. So there is a survey which was done, and people are saying that there are more than 7,000 languages all over the world, and there is a possibility that in another by 2050, almost two-thirds of those languages might be dead, because most of the people will go online and will have to use only English as their language, and then they will ignore their own languages. So all these ancient traditions are having lot of efforts to revive and make strengthen their languages. So I am
This is a
sure it is
Herculean
working.
task for ICCS
It
to
is,
consolidate all these traditions and their work.
ICCS is a small, humble effort.
Okay.
It is not that ICCS will be able to do all these things. It will depend upon how we grow and all those things. But all these people who are working
They're
in
willingly
their
they are doing.
respective countries,
Okay.
if we connect with them and talk this, so our talks and conferences always bring these points, what you asked me, so that there is a realization of the greater challenge which we will face in the near future, and trying to find out the solution. The purpose of ICCS conferences is, right at the onset, we used to tell them that we are not here to proselytize you to Hinduism. And we had established the first conference. Before that, we had almost collected 1,000 signatures from more than 80 different traditions of elders. And the membership was, I will revive my own traditions and do work for selflessly for my own traditions revival. And that's how you became the member of the World Council of Elders of the Ancient Tradition. We had those. And that's how the first conference happened, and 35 countries were represented. So this is where we would like to move forward, to see that all traditions in their respective countries. And we also, when in one-to-one we talk, we also tell them that there is a very good way of doing it, building a pride within your youths. And one thing we have to inculcate in their minds of the youths, that you are the one who need to selflessly work to revive your own culture. And that's why we sometimes talk to them about Shakha and tell them that, 1 hour in selflessly working, but creating a pride about yourself. There is a nice experiment which was done in South Africa. South Africa is a very good laboratory to study how the Western world did and how the Southern world is going to work. So Western world, what they did was, the white Africans, they created 27 different types of educational systems. So in some of the systems, they were teaching 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 in the high school level. So obviously the intellectual quotient, the IQ of that person was never competing with the white people. And then after the independence happened, they did an experiment in elementary school. They tried to build up the confidence or pride in the minds of the Zulu people in one class and normal regular teaching in the other class. They found out the person who was proud about themselves, the children, they were learning faster and better than one who did not have pride for themselves. And these type of experiments are happening around the world. So people are realizing that unless you are proud of yourself, unless you know who you are, you will never be able to stand in the competitive world. And that's why that creating that pride is to bring people together, talk to them, and then let them go to their country. Then I can quote at least many different countries where people think that ICCS conferences are changing their thought processes, their mindsets. And that is a positive thing which we are observing around the world.
We always say that India is a Vishwaguru or Vishwamitra. We never call it as a superpower India. Okay, that is not our concept. But I would like to ask, in your future, do you see as a Vishwaguru, Indian epistemology can create or reshape the world order?
The world order is based on chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita, Vishwarupa Darshan. These people already practice that. They already practice that what you carry and what I carry are the same part of the Paramatman. Now, only thing is that understanding this Vishwarupa and creating a Vishwa Dharma which is applicable to total humanity and human being in totality. So if you look at the commonalities of all these ancient traditions, you will find that these commonalities will connect us. And once that connection is there, only for Shruti, we will never be talking about the practices. Personal practices will be different for different places.
Yes.
If you go to Kenya, there is a Maasai tribe. Till recently, unless you kill a lion with stick, no guns, nothing else, with your personal power, then only you used to get married. Otherwise, the Maasai woman will not marry you.
Even today.
Yeah, till recently. Nowadays, the lions number has gone down, so they stopped that. But imagine if we adopt that in India, what will happen? Half of the people will be dead because the lions will eat them. I'm just joking, don't worry about that. So, the Shruti is commonalities, concept of God, relationship with God, rebirth concept, karma theories, the soul concept, the spirit concept. These are the commonalities. And we need to build up the Vishwadharma on this, because it is the concept what told by Krishna that I am existing, Mamai Mumsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. So every Bhuta I carry myself with them.
Wonderful.
So this is what they say, and that's why the ICCS right from the beginning has been based on one beautiful concept in Gita, which has come several times in several chapters, that is Sarva Bhuta Hiterataha, for the benefit of everybody. And the other concept which Bhagavad Gita says very beautifully is Advaishta Sarva Bhutanam. Without any jealousy, without any dvesha, we would like to work with everyone. Sarva Bhutanam, because Krishna says I am there. So obviously this type of philosophy, once it comes, and it is practiced by, recently we see that when we are becoming stronger in Bharat, we show that. Because the International Yoga Day was approved by more than 180 countries, which reflects that there is an interconnectedness. Yes. When the COVID vaccine came, we transferred the COVID vaccine, in spite of our 1.4 billion people, we transferred the COVID vaccine to 150 countries. So obviously, the Bharat has shown the way how you can realize the Vishwarupa and how can work with each other to build up that interconnectedness. And ICCS is a small, humble effort in that practice.
Pathak sir, wonderfully you are exploring. One more question I would like to ask you. That nowadays we talk about the diplomacy, geopolitics, international relations. Okay. I would like to know from you, can culture be that component, the very important component in connecting the other countries? And component can be important component in geopolitics. What do you think?
The culture is a binding force.
Okay.
Only thing is that we need to, again I repeat that we need to concentrate more on the Shruti. What are the commonalities? Rather than the Smriti, how they are practiced different ways. So this is where this culture can really connect us with other countries. And in each country, all these ancient traditions are growing. So they say that by 2030 to 2050, in these 20 years, you will find, nowadays it is very common that in Zambia, Zimbabwe, all those many African countries now, they take the oath in the parliament on their traditional books.
Okay.
They take their oath in their traditional languages. Though
their religion is Christian or something
doesn't
else.
matter, now they are understanding that Christianity religion is different than our way of life.
Okay.
So in many countries, like if you go to Trinidad, there are churches, African churches, and right next to them, there are Yoruba temples.
Okay.
And it so happened in these countries that the Indian indentured laborers, when they were carried by Britishers to different countries around the world, they were not allowed to chant Tulsi Ramayana. These were mostly from the north part, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. So they used to handwrite the Tulsi Ramayana.
Okay.
And even today in many museums, you will see the handwritten Tulsi Ramayana, the whole book, in 1960s, 1970s. So, if you chant Tulsi Ramayana in the daytime, the white people used to whip you. So, these people will chant Tulsi Ramayana at 12 o'clock in the midnight.
Okay.
And next day morning, they go for sugarcane cutting. At that time, the Africans were also staying in the same barracks. So, Africans started coming to this Tulsi Ramayana singing. And it so happened that when they started exchanging their thought processes, they found that Yoruba had almost similar type of gods and goddesses. So they borrowed the pictures of our gods and goddesses. So there are around 80 plus temples in Trinidad. These are Yoruba temples. But if you go in, you feel like you are going to Indian temple because there are picture of Hanumana, picture of Saraswati is there.
Achha.
Yeah, it's a very interesting phenomenon. And they go to church, they pray there, but then when they have to do some prayer for some disease, if suppose somebody is suffering from disease, then they will take the pumpkin and then they will break the pumpkin, offer it to the god.
Like a
saying,
coconut. Like coconut.
Like coconut. And then the pumpkin will not be eaten, but then it will be left there. So now this is where the commonalities are coming. And we need to really build on these commonalities to find out how we can connect with each other. And once this connection is established, you will be able to help each other. You know, if there are 4 brothers and one brother has polio, all the 3 brothers are responsible to take care of that 4th brother. It happens. All over the world it happens. But it has to come to the global level, with the country level or national level, so that taking care of each other, helping each other, and making sure that we are worshipping the same Atman which is present in you and me and everyone else, that will create that culture which will be conducive for the growth of humanity as a human being.
Okay. Is there any example, can you specify that we are having a good bonding, cultural bonding with a particular country, or the commonalities with a particular country, and that country is having a good geopolitical relation with India? Like Armenia is one of the example.
You know, there are many countries, like you must have seen that recently our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, has travelled many countries. And you have seen recently he was in South Africa, and now the people were going down. And one of the president of the country touched the feet of our Narendra Bhai because we sent them the vaccines. So there is a relationship which is built, but the relationship will be built only when there is a win-win situation for both the countries.
Okay.
And the more this happens, if you say that I am powerful and you are the poor, I am going to give you, then it will not work. In Native American, there is a beautiful ceremony. They call it give away ceremony.
Give away.
Yeah. And that happens once a year. So all the people, who they have whatever extra thing, they will bring it and put it in the center of the village. And then the elder of the village will lift, okay, this jacket is there. And somebody will come and pick up because he needs it.
Okay.
Now here, the person who is giving has no pride that I gave it, because he is giving it to village. He is not giving it to that person.
Okay.
That person doesn't have an inferiority complex that I picked up this jacket from this person. That is not there. Now this is a win-win situation for the giver and the taker. And this type of win-win situations, when they happen, then there will be more collaboration. If you say that, like the Americans, even though they are very powerful and all those things, if you talk to any of these people around the world, nobody loves them, to be honest with you. Because the reason is, they provide you, I'll really strongly recommend people to read that book, Beautiful Africa, where they are saying that America or World Bank used to give the money to them, and then they will say that you employ our people at the American salary. So the African person is getting $10 per month, and they are paying $100,000, $200,000 salary from the loan, where they will pay the interest on it. So ultimately, Africa always remained poor. And they wanted it to be poor. That's why they keep on creating fighting within them. So if they fight, you must have seen that if you see the history of post-World War, Second World War, there is continuously some or other war is going on. Because it is beneficial to the Orange County of California, where there all defense things are there. And their one county budget is more than budget of several countries together. It all defense budget. So obviously this is where you are exploiting this world. And that's exploitation has to stop. And that's why people who are sane, who think that the world is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Mitako Evachin or Ubuntu, this type of more of the people will be there. That's what we would like to achieve through ICCS. That we interact with the government people also, and it works. They love it. I had opportunity to meet many of the head of the institutions or government, and when we talk about all these things, they say this is what we want, and they also think that way. So it is a time for India to. Every time you must have heard that even Narendra Modi Sahab, he also says Vishwaguru and all those things. But Vishwaguru's first step is to find out who are thinking like us and build bridges with them, so that gradually you have another 500 million people thinking like you, who can influence the thought processes in their respective countries and bring to our thought processes. This is what Vishwaguru concept should happen. And that's what is happening actually.
Sir, last two questions. You have spared a lot of time for us. One is you are a biotechnologist, you are a nanotechnologist. Being a dean of Florida University, how you manage this time for ICCS working and being a professor in South Florida University?
You know, I always make a joke that for my bread and butter, and I really like a lot of butter. So I do nanotechnology for my bread and butter.
Okay.
And for my heart and soul, I do cultural studies, ICCS work. I'm doing a lot of other non-profit organizations also.
Okay.
Because I work with International Commission on Human Rights and Religious Freedom. I had edited a beautiful book on human rights and religious freedom from dharmic traditions and indigenous perspectives.
Okay.
I work with conflict management, where I always bring the ICCS thought process in our books. So if you see the number of books I edited, there is a lot of these things come up. And I organize conferences. That is one of the way we communicate. And it is, ultimately time management. You also get 24 hours. Trump also get 24 hours. Narendra Modi bhai also get 24 hours. Everybody get 24 hours. But their output is significantly more than you and me. Yes. The reason is they know how to delegate and they know how to get the work done. That's where the learning process is. And the more you adopt these people's style of working, it helps you to spare a lot of time in the... And I this question always asked. I have edited more than 100 books.
Yes.
And everybody, even my professor colleagues said, how you manage that? I said, I am working with you. You observe me how I do it, and it is very easy. It's not that difficult. But managing time is very important. Delegating, trusting people is important. That works very well.
Sir, I would like to ask, when we are discussing about ICCS, International Center for Cultural Studies, how it works, what is its working style, and what is the impact of ICCS? We have discussed it, but I would like to know from you, what is the structured way of ICCS?
ICCS started as a center of Afro-Hindu studies. And then we converted into, because we realized the importance of ICCS on a global scenario. So we expanded our horizons through ICCS, International Center for Cultural Studies. So the first attempt we started doing and getting people together was we used to interact with different traditions and bring them on one forum as either seminars or symposiums or conferences. So in last 30 years, this work is going on, and we must have had more than 100 conferences in many different countries, right from Maoris in Waikato University in Australian Aboriginal to pagans and Native Americans and Africans. The first conference I would like to mention it because it was very important, that happened in 1995. It was on Afro-Hindu cultural similarities, and in that one of the great speaker, Ruben Thuku, he was a Kikuyu. He was blind by birth, but he compared the African traditions and Upanishadic philosophy. Simultaneously, he could quote offhand all the prayers and verses of Upanishad. And he got the standing ovation in his talk also. And at that time, there were several people who wrote. One of the very interesting discovery we also learned about is that India and South Africa had a long relationship, more than 3,000 years. And when Indians used to go there, they built up several Surya Mandirs, sun temples. Even today, there are remnants of the sun temples where the sunlight will come and it will decide what time of the day it is. And there are those were the gold mines there. That's how 3,000 years back, our people used to go there. And so one is very interesting. We have done several conferences, bringing these people together, sharing their wisdom, publishing our books, and then putting them together as conference proceedings also has happened. Second thing we have done is a lot of workshops we conduct.
Okay.
And those workshops are how to interact with each other, how to respect each other, so how to understand each other, and identifying those commonalities. So when there is a discussion with Africans, so we start discussing, and then it is very interesting that it comes out to be very positive. There is a very positive effect of those discussions on both the cultures who are meeting. Interestingly, we had a conference in Guatemala where the Mayan people and we were collaborating on that conference. And the Mayan people are fire worshippers like us. They do the Havan. They have one candlestick for each day with different colors. They have their own herbs which they use for the ahutis. And there were mantras. So we tried to compare the mantras, and we really found out that all the Mayan mantras were applicable for total humanity, like Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya. Similar experience we had where we had a big gathering of condor and eagle, the South American and North American Native Americans. And when we participated there, they invited us to be the first because they said that you are the oldest culture on earth. So you do your first prayer. And then our prayers were from Vedic prayers, and then they were translated into Spanish and then some of the Native American languages. And then each of those elders who came, some major groups, they prayed. And you'll not believe, all prayers from different Native American people were coming down to total humanity. There was not a single prayer which was saying that only Mayan will go to heaven and rest will go to hell. It was a beautiful thing. And then we did ceremonies. We did the Havan, Yajna. And then one of the Native American elder came and he was looking at, and then he asked me, can I ask you a question? I said, please go ahead. So he said that, what are you going to do with the fire? So I said, please explain me why you are asking me this question. He said, no, are you going to throw it or we can use it? I said, why you want to use this fire for? So he said that we would like to connect with our ancestors. Now, this type of relationships are built by interactions. So ICCS believes that such type of small level interactions.
Webinars and seminars.
Yeah, not even, but the ceremonies.
Okay.
Because the ceremonies connects us much faster than the webinars and seminars.
Okay.
Because you transfer it. If you go to Lithuania, the Lithuanian prayers for sun are very close to our Surya Sukta.
Okay.
So there are Prithvi Sukta is very common in many of these prayers to the Mother Earth are very common.
Okay.
Because same feeling is there. And that is what we would like to do. So ICCS does all these activities, and we are trying to establish ICCS in different countries as a non-profit organization, and the research rewatch also, so that there will be active academic research, but then we want to collaborate academic research with the practicing research. Because unless the practicing aspect is not connected with academic research, it is a dry expression. So we need to connect that and see how it helps. And that's what ICCS is trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing this time. My dear friends, this was Professor Yashwant Pathak ji, a man with more than 100 books, more than 400 research papers, and working across the globe for ICCS and connecting all the dots, connecting the culture. And this was the Herculean task he's doing in his 70s. That's why he's inspiration for all. And I thank you very much, sir, for sparing time for ICCS. Thank you very much.